The man guarding the evidence is the man who created it, my brother whispered, seconds before Adrian Cole ordered security to keep him in the conference room until federal investigators arrived. That was the moment I understood that the stolen money was not the greatest danger inside Cole Meridian. The greatest danger was that someone had built a perfect lie, and the most powerful man in the building had already decided my brother would carry it. Rainwater still clung to my coat as I stood beneath the white marble lights of the executive floor, trying to understand how my life had changed in less than half an hour. At 11:49 that night, I had been sitting at my kitchen table with a cup of cold coffee, reviewing insurance claims for people I would never meet. Then Ryan called. He did not say hello. He only said, "Claire, come to Cole Meridian. Do not trust security." The line went dead before I could ask why. 28 minutes later, I was standing inside a glass conference room 40 floors above Chicago. Ryan sat at the far end of a polished black table, his face pale beneath the city lights. Two corporate security officers stood behind him. They had not arrested him. They were holding him under company security procedures while federal investigators reviewed the evidence Marcus Vance had already sent them. Between Ryan and me lay a table long enough to separate ordinary people from powerful ones. Adrian Cole stood at its head. I recognized him immediately. Everyone in Chicago did. He was 34 years old, the chief executive officer of a company whose name glowed from hospitals, shipping terminals, office towers, and half the technology used by the city. He wore a charcoal suit without a tie, as if even formality had learned not to challenge him. His dark hair remained perfectly in place despite the storm outside. His expression was worse. Calm. Absolute. The kind of calm that came from rarely being questioned. "Your brother entered a restricted technology floor at 11:42, he said. His voice was low, controlled, and colder than the glass walls around us. $4 million was moved through 3 offshore accounts. Confidential files connected to an acquisition were copied. His credentials appear in the access report. The security system shows him entering the protected corridor." I looked at Ryan. "Is that true?" "I entered the floor," he said. "I did not enter the server room." One of the officers shifted behind him. Ryan lowered his voice. "They changed the record." Adrian's eyes moved to me. "Your brother has worked here for 6 years. He knew where the safeguards were weakest. Then he would also know how obvious this looks." The room went still. Adrian studied me with the expression of a man examining a flaw in expensive glass. "Obvious. His name is on everything. His credentials. His access card. His face. Whoever did this did not hide him. They displayed him." Marcus Vance stood near the door, broad-shouldered and silver-haired, wearing the quiet confidence of someone who had spent years deciding who was allowed near important men. He was Adrian's chief of security. Ryan had warned me not to trust security, but Marcus smiled at me like a concerned uncle. A silver mechanical watch rested against his left wrist. His right hand remained close to it, as if time itself belonged to him. "People make mistakes when they are desperate," Marcus said. "Your brother recently applied for a loan. It was denied." Ryan turned toward him. "You pulled my financial records?" "We protect this company," Marcus replied. "That requires understanding where pressure can be applied." Something about the way he said applied made my skin tighten. Adrian touched the control panel built into the table. A video appeared on the wall. Ryan walked down a hallway at 11:42, carrying his laptop bag. The timestamp glowed in the corner. He stopped at a secured door, placed his badge near the reader, and disappeared beyond the camera's view. The image was clean. Too clean. No hesitation. No distortion. No missing frames. It looked less like proof and more like a demonstration. "Play it again," I said. Adrian did not move. "You have seen the relevant evidence. I have seen what your security department selected for me." Marcus's smile disappeared. Adrian's gaze sharpened. For 1 second, the entire room seemed to hold its breath for him. "Be careful," he said. "You are standing in my building, questioning an investigation conducted by people who have protected this company for decades. I am questioning a conclusion reached before I arrived." Ryan whispered my name, warning me, but I kept my eyes on Adrian. Fear was there. Of course it was. My heartbeat had been uneven since the elevator doors opened. But fear had never made me quieter. It made me precise. "You expected me to beg," I said. "You thought I would apologize for Ryan, promise cooperation, and leave while your legal team handed the evidence to federal investigators. But if the case is as complete as you say, why are you afraid to let me examine it? Adrian's jaw tightened. Marcus stepped forward. This is not an insurance audit, Claire. Everything becomes an audit when a person's future depends on a record. I turned back to the screen. I work in fraud review. I spend every day examining documents designed to look ordinary. False claims rarely fail because of a dramatic mistake. They fail because of one detail the creator assumed no one would question. Adrian glanced toward the clock. It was 12:17 after midnight. The federal interview is scheduled for 9 this morning, he said. Until then, you may review the internal evidence under supervision. You will not copy confidential company files. You will not contact the press. You will not enter restricted areas without authorization. And if I prove the evidence was altered, then I will stop the referral and give the investigators everything you find. It was not an apology. It was not trust. It was the smallest door a man like Adrian Cole could open without admitting he might be wrong. I need the raw access controller records, the security dashboard logs, the camera metadata, the door sensor data, and the maintenance reports. Marcus gave a quiet laugh. That could take days. Then whoever framed Ryan is counting on the clock. Ryan's breathing changed. He leaned forward. Claire. An officer placed a hand near his shoulder, but Adrian raised one finger and the officer stepped back. Ryan looked at me with the same eyes that had watched over me since our parents died, the same eyes that had never asked me to carry anything he believed he could carry alone. The black ledger, he said. Marcus went completely still. It lasted less than a second, but I saw it. Adrian did not. What is the black ledger? I asked. Ryan's face tightened. Do not let them erase it. Marcus moved between us. That is enough. Adrian ordered the officers to take Ryan to a monitored interview room downstairs, where he would remain with company counsel until the investigators arrived. As Ryan passed me, his shoulder brushed mine. His voice dropped beneath the sound of rain striking the glass. Watch the man guarding the evidence. Then the doors closed behind him. I looked across the conference room at Marcus Vance. He was smiling again, but his right hand had closed over the silver watch on his left wrist, as if he were checking whether time was still under his control. At 12:26, Marcus handed me a temporary access card. This opens only the rooms Adrian approved. The card was white, blank except for my name printed in black letters. Claire Bennett. Seeing it there made me feel less like a guest and more like a record already entered into a system that could be used against me. Adrian stood beside the glass wall with his sleeves rolled once at the wrists, watching the city through the rain. 40 floors below us, Chicago moved in silver lines along wet streets. From that height, people looked small enough to ignore. Where do I begin? I asked. Marcus gestured toward a smaller conference room across the hall. The evidence has been prepared for you. Prepared. Not preserved. Not collected. Prepared. I followed him into a windowless room containing one black table and 6 monitors arranged in a careful curve. A security analyst named Ethan Parker sat at the controls. He looked about 25 and had the stiff posture of someone afraid to make the wrong movement in front of his boss. Adrian entered behind me. Marcus remained near the door. Play the hallway recording, I said. Ethan looked at Adrian before touching the keyboard. That told me everything about how truth worked in this building. It waited for permission. The video appeared again. Ryan entered the frame at 11:42 and 11 seconds. His laptop bag hung from his right shoulder. The security dashboard reported that he presented his badge at 11:42 and 18 seconds. The door appeared to open, and Ryan disappeared from view. Show me the raw door controller record, I said. Ethan opened a separate system. It did not show the polished report Marcus had presented. It showed the direct electronic signal produced by the lock itself. The door controller recorded an opening at 11:43 and 5 seconds. I checked the numbers twice. Play the video again. Ethan obeyed. The exported camera timestamp and the security dashboard both placed the event at 11:42 and 18 seconds. The independent door controller placed the physical opening 47 seconds later. There, I said. Adrian moved closer. Explain it. The report and the camera share the same altered time. The raw door controller does not. Marcus stepped forward. Systems can drift out of synchronization. By exactly 47 seconds. It happens. I turned to Ethan. Does it? His eyes moved to Marcus. Small differences are possible. How small? Usually less than 2 seconds. The room became quiet enough for me to hear the faint hum inside the monitors. Marcus gave Ethan a look that made the young man lower his eyes. "Show me another employee using the same door tonight," I said. Ethan pulled up a maintenance technician entering at 9:18. The camera, security dashboard, and raw door controller matched within 1 second. We checked another entry, then another. Every system agreed until Ryan appeared. Only the records involving him carried the 47-second offset. "Someone altered the exported video time and the security report," I said. Marcus shook his head. "Or the door controller failed once." "Then show me the failure diagnostic." There was no failure report. Because the controller did not fail. Adrian placed both hands on the table. "Could Ryan have changed the camera record?" Ethan answered before Marcus could. "Not without elevated administrator credentials." "Did Ryan have those credentials?" "No," Marcus spoke calmly. "Credentials can be stolen." "From whom?" I asked. Marcus did not answer. Adrian watched the footage again. His expression had not softened, but something had changed behind it. The certainty was gone. Not much, just enough to form a crack. "Check every system record connected to Ryan," he ordered. Marcus said, "That could take hours." "We have hours." For the next 90 minutes, Ethan and I compared elevator records, camera exports, badge reports, raw access controller signals, and environmental sensors. Adrian stayed. I had expected him to leave the work to other people, but he stood behind us and read every result. Twice, his phone lit with messages marked urgent. He ignored them. At 1:41, a financial officer called and warned him that news of the missing files could freeze the acquisition by morning. Adrian listened without speaking, then said, "No public statement until we understand what happened." When the call ended, I noticed how tightly he held the phone. "$4 million will not destroy this company," I said. "No," he replied. "But the stolen acquisition files could destroy the agreement attached to it. 12 facilities depend on that agreement. More than 3,000 employees depend on those facilities." For the first time, I understood the weight behind his anger. He was not only protecting a balance sheet. He believed one person's betrayal could cost thousands of people their jobs. That did not make him right. It made his mistake more dangerous. "You think sacrificing Ryan protects everyone else," I said. Adrian's eyes met mine. "I think delay has consequences. So does certainty." He looked away first. At 2:03 in the morning, we found the pattern. The altered window began at 11:37, 5 minutes before Ryan entered the executive floor, and ended 11 minutes later. Someone had built a narrow, false timeline around him. Marcus leaned over Ethan's shoulder. "Can you identify the account that generated the altered report?" Ethan typed, then frowned. "The administrator audit entry is missing." "Missing?" Adrian asked. "Deleted from the security dashboard," Ethan said. "But the raw controller should have a separate authentication trace." Marcus exhaled as if disappointed. Ryan worked in systems. He knew how to remove logs. He did not have administrator privileges. I reminded him. He could have stolen them. "From whom?" Marcus remained silent. I opened Ryan's work history and found a message he had sent 2 days earlier to internal security. The subject line read "Unusual Credential Activity." The message body and attachment were gone, but the delivery record showed that it had reached Marcus's office at 8:14 in the morning. "You received a warning from him," I said. Marcus looked at the screen without surprise. "We receive hundreds of automated alerts." "This was not automated." "Then perhaps your brother was creating an excuse in advance." Adrian studied Marcus. "Did you speak to Ryan about it?" "No, why not?" "Because there was nothing credible to investigate." The answer came too quickly. I turned back to the computer and searched the deleted mail archive. "Access denied." I tried again. The screen went black for half a second, then returned to the login page. Ethan reached for the keyboard. Before he touched it, the door opened. A security officer entered carrying a clear evidence bag. Inside was a small black storage drive. "This was found in Ryan Bennett's coat during a second search," he said. Marcus took the bag and placed it beneath the light. "What is on it?" "Copies of the stolen acquisition files." My mouth went dry. His coat was searched when he was brought downstairs. The officer looked at Marcus. Marcus looked at Adrian. Then the first officer missed it. Marcus said. Adrian's expression hardened again, but not entirely in Ryan's direction. Marcus handed the drive to Ethan. "Examine it on the isolated computer." Ethan connected it. The stolen files appeared immediately. So did a report claiming that a fingerprint on the casing matched mine. I watched the color leave Ethan's face. Marcus turned toward me with quiet satisfaction. You entered this building less than 3 hours ago, he said. Yet your fingerprint is on a drive containing stolen files found in your brother's coat. That is impossible. My voice sounded calm. My hands did not feel calm. Ethan displayed the evidence photograph. The curve of my thumb was visible on the black plastic. Adrian stood behind my chair, silent, while rain traced silver lines down the windows beyond the hall. Then somebody wanted you to find it, I said. That is convenient, Marcus replied. No. Convenient would be blaming Ryan and sending the evidence to federal investigators before sunrise. This is careful. Marcus looked toward the officer. Take her access card. The officer stepped forward. Adrian raised his hand. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. Wait. The officer stopped. Marcus turned slowly. Adrian, she is now directly connected to stolen data. She is connected to the surface of a device, Adrian replied. That is not the same thing as proving she created or possessed the files. It was the first time he had openly challenged Marcus since I arrived. The difference was small, but I felt it move through the room like a change in air pressure. Marcus lowered his voice. You are allowing emotion to interfere with procedure. Adrian's eyes became colder. Do not confuse my questions with emotion. He looked at me. Explain the fingerprint. I stared at the drive. Black plastic. Rounded edge. Cheap silver connector. Then I remembered the reception desk. When I arrived, the receptionist had asked me to sign a visitor form on a tablet. A small black drive had been lying beside the stylus, partly blocking it. I had moved the drive with my thumb before signing. At the time, it had meant nothing. Now it felt like the first tile in a floor someone had built beneath my feet. I touched that drive in the lobby, I said. Or one exactly like it. Marcus gave a quiet sigh. Of course you did. Pull the lobby camera. Ethan looked at Adrian. Adrian nodded. The footage appeared within seconds. There I was, wet coat, tired face, one hand holding my phone. I reached across the desk and moved the black drive exactly as I remembered. Continue the recording, I said. Ethan advanced the footage. 9 minutes after I entered the elevator, a man wearing a company security jacket approached the desk, spoke briefly to the receptionist, and picked up the drive. His face remained outside the clearest camera angle. Check his access record, I said. Ethan searched the lobby system. The man's badge event had been removed from the polished security report, but the turnstile controller preserved a device identification number. It belonged to the security administration pool controlled by Marcus's office. Marcus leaned closer. That does not identify an individual. It identifies the department that took the drive after I touched it, I said. Then the files were written onto it at 12:54, while Ryan was already in the monitored room. After that, someone planted it in his coat before the second search. Ethan opened the file metadata. The transfer did complete at 12:54. Adrian looked at the wall clock. It was 2:19. When was the first search? He asked. 12:06, the officer replied. When was the second? 2:2. Silence returned. It had a different weight now. Someone with access to the monitored floor had placed the drive in Ryan's coat after he was already under supervision. Marcus glanced at the officer. Review the holding room logs. Ethan began typing, but the screen flashed red. Access denied. He tried another route. The result was the same. My security credentials have been suspended, he said. Marcus folded his arms. Standard protocol after a breach. Who suspended them? Adrian asked. Ethan read the notice. Security Administration. Marcus did not blink. A necessary precaution. I turned to Adrian. Your system is closing every door the moment we reach it. Because your brother compromised it, Marcus said. Or because someone is still using it. Adrian stared at the dark monitor for a long moment. Then he removed my temporary access card from the table. Your access is revoked. The words landed harder than I expected. You said I had until 9. That changed when your fingerprint appeared on evidence connected to the theft. Marcus's satisfaction returned. Security will escort you out. I stood slowly. You are making the same mistake twice. Adrian's face remained unreadable. Go home, Claire. And Ryan. He remains with counsel until the investigators arrive. Then you are not protecting this company. You are protecting the version of the story that asks the least from you. I placed the white card on the table. You do not need another employee who obeys you. You need one person who is not afraid to tell you when you are wrong. Adrian said nothing. I left before fear could make me say less than I meant. The elevator ride down felt longer than 40 floors. In the lobby, the reception desk was empty. The black drive was gone. So was the digital visitor record I had completed. Outside the main doors, the rain had weakened to a cold mist. I crossed the covered walkway into the attached parking garage and headed toward my car on the third underground level. That was when I remembered Ryan's old phone. He had given it to me 3 months earlier after buying a new one, telling me to keep it in case mine ever failed. It was still beneath my passenger seat. I connected it to the charger. The screen lit slowly, and the email application opened to the account Ryan had left signed in. Most of the messages were months old, but one unfinished draft had synchronized 2 nights earlier. The subject line read Black Ledger. The message contained no explanation, only a list of payments routed through private security companies and one sentence at the bottom. If anything happens to me, check who owns the companies. I used the public Illinois Business Registry to search the first company, then the second, then the third. Every registration led back to the same private trust. Vance Strategic Holdings. The oldest company had been formed almost 18 years earlier, 3 weeks before Adrian Cole had been kidnapped at 16. My breath stopped. Headlights moved across the concrete wall behind me. A black company vehicle pulled into the row and stopped 2 spaces away. I locked the car doors. My phone rang. Adrian Cole's name appeared on the screen. "Claire," he said when I answered. His voice was lower than before. "Do not leave the garage." "Why?" A pause. Then the overhead lights shut off 1 row at a time. "Because someone just used your revoked card to enter the compliance archive." The darkness reached my car before Adrian finished speaking. 1 row of lights vanished, then the next, until the garage became a long concrete tunnel lit only by red emergency signs and the pale glow of my phone. The black company vehicle beside me remained still. Its windows were too dark to show whether anyone sat inside. "Where are you?" Adrian asked. "3rd underground level. East side. Stay in the car. The garage security team is restoring the lights. Someone is using my card upstairs." "I know." The card opened the compliance archive on the 39th floor. That room contains the original Write Once security backups. I looked at the registration records on Ryan's old phone. Vance Strategic Holdings. 3 security companies. Nearly 18 years of payments. "Adrian, I found the owner of the companies in Ryan's draft." The black vehicle's headlights came on. I stopped breathing. "Who?" "Marcus." Silence. Not disbelief. Something heavier. "That is not possible," he said. "The state records say otherwise." The vehicle began moving. Slowly. It passed behind my car, turned toward the exit ramp, and disappeared without stopping. A moment later, the emergency lights returned. "The vehicle is leaving," I said. "Stay where you are. I am coming down. If someone is erasing the archive, we do not have time." I left the car and climbed the 3 garage levels to the lobby service corridor. My legs were already shaking when Adrian reached me through a restricted elevator entrance. He had removed his jacket. His white shirt sleeves were rolled to his elbows, and for the first time since I entered Cole Meridian, he looked less like the man on magazine covers and more like someone trying to keep his world from shifting beneath him. "You ignored a direct instruction," he said. "You revoked my access. You cannot order me anymore." His eyes held mine. "You were never good at following orders. You were never good at asking questions." The corner of his mouth almost moved. Almost. Then he looked toward the freight elevator. "The main elevators have been locked by security administration. I restored a limited emergency route, but it will take us only to the 38th floor. Marcus has every clearance." "Yes." The word sounded different when Adrian said it aloud. Not like a fact, like a confession. He opened a locked maintenance box beside the freight elevator and removed an emergency override key. "My father required senior executives to train on evacuation systems after my kidnapping," he said. "He believed a man should understand every system he depended on." "Did Marcus teach you that too?" Adrian's hand stopped on the switch. "Marcus taught me how to survive this building before it belonged to me." The freight elevator carried us to the 38th floor. From there, we used a mechanical stairwell release to reach the compliance archive 1 floor above. The corridor was dark except for emergency lighting along the baseboards. The archive door stood open. Ethan was inside beside a server cabinet. working from a laptop connected to an isolated maintenance port. He looked up quickly. I received the one-time authorization code you sent, he told Adrian. The system showed Claire's card paired with a high-level administrator credential. Then a purge command began. I disconnected the archive from the internal network before it completed. How much was lost? Adrian asked. The right one's copies are intact. The searchable index is damaged, but I can rebuild it. I moved to the nearest terminal. Can you recover what the intruder searched? Ethan restored the local index. A list of archived security events appeared, followed by folders dating back more than 20 years. The intruder had not been trying to erase only tonight's records. He had opened one specific folder from the year Adrian turned 16. Ethan enlarged it. The label contained a date and 2 words. Cole abduction. Adrian's face emptied. Close it, Adrian, I said. Close it. His voice was harder, but his hand had tightened around the edge of the desk. I understood then. Marcus had not simply worked for his family. He was the security officer credited with finding Adrian after the kidnapping. Newspaper profiles still described him as the loyal employee who brought the Cole heir home and later became his mentor. Ethan opened the archived incident report. The protected copy does not match the report kept in the active security system, he said. What is different? I asked. The recovery time. The official report says Marcus located Adrian at 2:40 in the morning. The private ambulance log says Adrian was picked up from the location at 2:11. Adrian stared at the screen. That could be a clerical mistake. There is more, Ethan said carefully. The call directing the ambulance to the location came from a prepaid phone purchased by one of the companies in Claire's list. The purchase record is in the archived expense file. I opened Ryan's draft again. The oldest company had been formed 3 weeks before the kidnapping. It received its first large payment from a discretionary Cole family account 2 days after Adrian returned home. Marcus created the threat, I said quietly. Then he made himself the man who saved you from it. Adrian stepped away from the desk. For several seconds, the only sound in the archive was the cooling system restarting behind the walls. He sat beside me every night for a month, he said. My father could not look at me without seeing his own failure. Marcus could. He taught me to drive. He attended my graduation. He stood beside me at my father's funeral. That is why Ryan became dangerous, I said. He did not find one stolen transfer. He found the pattern that built Marcus's place inside your family. Adrian looked toward the dark window at the end of the corridor. His reflection stared back at him, pale and divided by the glass. If this is true, I do not know which parts of my life were real. I wanted to tell him that the care he had felt could still matter even if the person offering it had used it as a weapon. I wanted to make the answer easier. But easy answers had brought us here. Then decide who you are after you know the truth. His eyes returned to mine. Not as a chief executive officer. Not as the owner of the building. As a man who had discovered that the safest memory of his life might have been designed by someone else. A soft chime sounded from Ethan's laptop. He read the alert and turned pale. The board chair has called an emergency session for 6 o'clock. Marcus invoked the company's critical security clause and submitted a report accusing Ryan and Claire of coordinating the theft. Adrian picked up his jacket. The uncertainty disappeared behind controls so quickly that I almost missed it. Restore every file you can. Preserve an encrypted copy for outside counsel. He looked at me. You are coming with me. To the board meeting? Marcus believes I still trust him. Do you? Adrian opened the archive door. I trust that he will reveal more if he believes he has already won. At 5:58, we entered the executive boardroom together. 12 directors sat beneath white lights. Natalie Brooks, the company's general counsel, sat 3 seats from the head of the table with a legal pad open before her. Marcus stood beside the wall display with a folder in his hands. 2 security officers waited near the door. He looked at Adrian, then at me, and smiled with the same calm expression he had worn all night. Adrian did not stand beside me. He crossed the room and took his place near Marcus. Security, he said, secure Claire Bennett's phone and keep her in the room until this session is complete. The officers moved toward me, and for one impossible second, I believed Adrian had chosen the man who built his life out of lies. Marcus did not look surprised. That frightened me more than the order itself. He had expected Adrian to surrender to the oldest habit in the room. Trust the powerful man, silence the inconvenient woman, and call the result procedure. One officer placed my phone in an evidence pouch. The other asked me to sit in the chair nearest the door. I looked at Adrian, waiting for some signal, but his face had become the same cold mask he had worn when he accused Ryan. You said you wanted the truth, I told him. I want the board to hear all of it, he replied. Marcus placed both hands on the table. Then we should begin. The directors watched me with carefully neutral expressions. Natalie's eyes met mine for half a second, then dropped to her notes. Marcus activated the display. A diagram appeared showing the stolen files, the offshore accounts, and the security reports linked to Ryan. Then my name appeared beside his. Shortly after midnight, Marcus said, Claire Bennett entered this building after receiving instructions from her brother. Her fingerprint was recovered from a storage device containing confidential acquisition files. She interfered with an internal investigation, entered a restricted archive, and used an unauthorized personal device to obtain company records. Every sentence was technically close to something that had happened. That was what made it effective. A strong lie did not invent an entire world. It rearranged the real one. Ryan Bennett initiated the theft, Marcus continued. Claire Bennett came here to remove the remaining evidence and reach the black ledger. One director leaned forward. Why would she voluntarily come to headquarters if she intended to conceal evidence? Marcus answered without pause. Because the transfer was incomplete. She required direct access to the archive. Explain the black ledger, Natalie said. Marcus glanced at her. A protected collection of sensitive historical transactions. Sensitive or illegal? She asked. That distinction is not relevant to the current theft. It becomes relevant when the alleged theft exposes misconduct. Marcus's voice cooled. Counsel, remember who requested this meeting? The board chair called this meeting, Natalie replied. You supplied the accusation. Adrian finally spoke. Continue. Marcus displayed footage of Adrian and me entering the archive after my access had been revoked. Adrian's judgment was compromised by Claire's claims, Marcus said. She exploited his concern for the company and persuaded him to override established security protocols. Adrian looked at me. There was no warmth in his expression, but I noticed his right hand resting near the control panel. The same hand he had used all night to stop people from acting before he gave permission. I understood. He had not kept me in the room to silence me. He had placed me where Marcus could see me, where Marcus would believe I had lost. You said Ryan changed the system records, Adrian said. Yes. You said Claire helped him conceal the theft. Yes. And you said the security evidence supports one coordinated plan. Marcus nodded. Adrian touched the control panel. 3 columns appeared on the wall. The exported camera time. The security dashboard time. The raw door controller time. Why do the camera export and security report share the same 47-second offset, while the independent door controller does not? Adrian asked. Marcus did not answer immediately. A synchronization failure. A failure affecting only the 11-minute period surrounding Ryan. Targeted corruption can produce unusual results. Can it also write files to a storage drive after the accused employee is already under continuous supervision? The metadata appeared. The files had been written at 12:54. Ryan had been in the monitored interview room since 12:06. One director removed his glasses. Another leaned back slowly. Marcus recovered quickly. The transfer could have been remote. The drive did not enter the holding area until after the files were written, I said. Every face turned toward me. Marcus's expression hardened. You are not authorized to speak. Adrian did not look away from him. She is now. I stood. The officer near me did not interfere. I touched the drive at the reception desk shortly after midnight. 9 minutes later, someone using a credential from the security administration pool removed it. The files were written onto it while Ryan was already being monitored. Then it appeared in his coat during a second search almost 2 hours later. Marcus gave a thin smile. A theory without proof. Natalie slid a signed statement across the table. The receptionist confirmed that Marcus's office instructed her to leave a black drive beside the visitor tablet as part of what she was told was a security test. She did not know what the drive would later contain. Marcus looked toward her. You contacted an employee during an active investigation? I preserved testimony during a suspected internal fraud. Adrian changed the display. Ryan's deleted email appeared, restored from an independent mail retention service outside Marcus's security system. The subject line warned of unusual administrator activity. The recipient was Marcus Vance. You received this 2 days ago, Adrian said. You claimed there was nothing credible to investigate. I receive hundreds of alerts. This one named your companies. The payment records filled the screen. 3 private security firms. Nearly 18 years. Millions of dollars routed through Vance Strategic Holdings. Marcus's calm finally shifted. Not much. Just enough. Those companies performed confidential services for your father, including arranging my kidnapping? Adrian asked. The room went silent. The ambulance record appeared beside the official recovery report. Then came the prepaid phone purchase, the creation date of the first security company, and the payment issued 2 days after Adrian came home. Marcus stared at the evidence as if he could force it back into darkness. Your father understood that fear creates discipline, he said. He needed an heir who could survive pressure. Adrian's voice became very quiet. You arranged it. I prepared you. You made yourself necessary. Marcus looked around the boardroom. I protected this company when Daniel Cole was too sentimental to do what survival required. You stole from it, Natalie said. I moved resources to people who understood loyalty. Loyalty? I asked. You mean obedience? Marcus turned to me. Your brother should have ignored what he found. That was your mistake, I said. You believed ordinary people would protect themselves by staying silent. Adrian pressed one final command. Ethan's restored access trace appeared. The raw server room controller showed that Ryan's cloned credential had been paired with a second authentication token at 11:43. The token was not registered to Ryan. It belonged to the encrypted emergency credential embedded in Marcus's silver security watch, the same watch his hand had covered all night. The building's independent emergency location system placed that token inside the protected corridor during the exact minute the files were copied. Marcus looked down at his wrist. For the first time, the watch no longer looked like a symbol of control. It looked like a witness. Your security system did not fail, I said. It obeyed the wrong man. Marcus reached toward the tablet in front of him. Natalie stood. Do not touch that device. He stopped, then smiled. You think this ends with me? The display changed. A purge warning appeared, followed by a 5-minute countdown. Ethan's voice came through the conference speaker. A deletion routine was scheduled to activate if Marcus's administrator credentials were suspended. It has begun erasing the searchable Black Ledger Index. Can you stop it? Adrian asked. The write-once archive is intact, but preserving it now requires moving encrypted copies outside the company network. I can send them to federal investigators, outside counsel, the independent auditors, and the board's secure repository. Once transmitted, Cole Meridian will no longer control who reviews the records. Several directors began speaking at once. One warned that mandatory disclosures could damage the company before the market opened. Another said the acquisition might collapse. A third demanded that Adrian preserve legal privilege and let the internal index disappear. Marcus leaned toward him. Your father built Cole Meridian from nothing. Every secret in that ledger was buried to protect what he created. Stop the external transfer, and I will tell you where the remaining private copies are. Authorize it, and his name becomes part of a federal investigation before breakfast. Adrian looked at the old photograph displayed beside the records. Daniel Cole stood at a groundbreaking ceremony with one hand on his son's shoulder, smiling for cameras that had never seen what happened behind closed doors. I could see the boy Adrian had been inside the man he had become. A boy taught that survival meant control. A man who had spent his life making decisions before anyone else could make them for him. You do not have to protect your father's choices, I said. Marcus turned toward me. This does not concern you. It concerns my brother. It concerns every employee blamed for something your system chose not to question. I looked at Adrian. You said 3,000 jobs depended on this company. Then give those people a company that can survive the truth. The countdown reached 3 minutes and 48 seconds. Adrian's hand moved toward the control panel. Marcus smiled. Good. In the transfer, Adrian entered his authorization code. For 1 second, nothing happened. Then the words on the display changed. External preservation authorized. Marcus's smile disappeared. What did you do? What you taught me, Adrian said. I chose what I could live with. The countdown continued, but now it measured the time required to complete the protected copies. Marcus reached for the tablet again. The 2 security officers stepped between him and the table. This time they did not look to him for permission. They looked to Adrian. Marcus Vance, Natalie said. You are required to remain in this room pending federal review. Marcus stared at Adrian with something colder than anger. Disappointment. I made you strong. Adrian met his eyes. You made me afraid. I mistook that for strength. Natalie had contacted outside counsel and federal investigators when Ethan restored the first payment records. They had been waiting in the lobby while the board reviewed the evidence. With 2 minutes remaining, the boardroom doors opened. Ethan entered carrying his laptop, followed by 2 investigators and the company's outside attorney. No one raised a voice. No one needed to. Marcus surrendered his access card and was escorted from the room for questioning. As he passed me, the silver watch remained on his wrist inside a clear evidence cover. For the first time, it looked small. At 7 seconds, the wall display flashed white. Then the protected copies were confirmed. The evidence clearing Ryan went with them. So did the payment records, the altered reports, and the names of former employees Marcus had blamed to protect himself. The room remained silent after the countdown disappeared. Adrian stood at the head of the table, but the power around him felt different. Less like a weapon, more like a responsibility. Release Ryan from the internal hold, he said. Rescind his suspension and preserve every document connected to his case. Natalie closed her legal pad. The public statement? Adrian looked toward the city. Dawn had begun turning the wet buildings gray. Tell the truth, we can verify. Do not hide what we still need to investigate. Ryan walked into the lobby at 7:12 wearing the same wrinkled shirt he had worn when they took him downstairs. The federal investigators had reviewed the timeline and told him he was free to leave. They wanted him to remain available as a witness, not a suspect. His restraints were gone. The weight in his shoulders was not. It still carried the memory of a night spent wondering whether his name would ever belong to him again. I crossed the marble floor before anyone could stop me. He pulled me into a quiet embrace and whispered, "You found it. You left me the map. I thought they deleted the draft." They almost did. He looked past me at Adrian standing near the elevators. Did he believe you? Eventually. Ryan gave a tired smile. Powerful men always arrive late to the truth. Adrian heard him. He did not defend himself. At 9 o'clock, every employee at Cole Meridian received a message asking them to gather in the main atrium or join the company broadcast. Adrian stood beneath the enormous glass wall without a prepared speech. Ryan and I remained near the back. Last night, Adrian said, I accused Ryan Bennett of theft before the evidence had been independently verified. I allowed authority, urgency, and personal loyalty to replace judgment. I was wrong. The words traveled through the atrium with no music beneath them, no polished video, and no public relations language to soften their meaning. The evidence now shows that Ryan identified misconduct inside this company and was framed by the person trusted to investigate it. Claire Bennett exposed the manipulation of our security records and forced this company to examine facts it had been prepared to ignore. Adrian turned toward Ryan. Ryan Bennett, I apologize to you by name because you were accused by name. Ryan nodded once. Then clear the others too. Adrian paused. Which others? Everyone Marcus pushed out before me. Everyone whose record was damaged because blaming them was easier than questioning him. Adrian looked toward Natalie. Begin an independent review today. 3 weeks later, federal investigators formally removed Ryan from the suspect list. Cole Meridian restored his employment record, offered him paid leave, and appointed outside counsel to review compensation. The independent audit had already identified 6 former employees whose careers had been damaged by false security reports. The acquisition survived, although under stricter oversight and with public disclosures Adrian's father would have spent a fortune trying to avoid. I returned to my insurance office and tried to resume my ordinary life. Then Adrian arrived on a gray Thursday afternoon without security, without an assistant, and without the dark wall of people who usually moved ahead of him. He waited beside my desk until I finished a call. Cole Meridian needs a director of internal integrity, he said. Someone who reports to the audit committee rather than security or executive management. You are offering me a job because I proved you wrong. I am offering you a job because you were willing to. That still sounds like a reward. Then refuse it. I studied him. 3 weeks earlier, every sentence from Adrian Cole had sounded like an order. Now he waited for an answer he could not control. I refuse it, I said. He nodded, and the disappointment in his face was honest enough to surprise me. I walked with him to the street. Chicago moved around us beneath a pale afternoon sky. Buses hissed along the curb. Coffee shops filled with people escaping the cold. Ordinary lives continued beneath towers built by men who believed height made them impossible to question. "Claire," Adrian said. I turned. "May I ask you something that has nothing to do with the company?" "You may ask. Can I see you again?" He did not offer a private restaurant, a company car, or anything money could arrange before I answered. He simply waited. "Ask me again," I said, "when you have learned the difference between loyalty and obedience." Adrian lowered his eyes, not in defeat, but in understanding. He owned every floor of the glass tower behind him. Every door had once opened because he commanded it. Yet in that moment, he did the one thing power had never taught him to do. He listened.